It is my honor and privilege to address this community once again on this Adam Day, 2023. When considering the possible topics for this presentation, we began with the idea of the colors of Allah, referring specifically to a verse from the Quran, verse 138 of the second surah, which in some English translations is rendered in the following way: we take our color from Allah, and who is better than Allah at coloring? We are his worshippers. In this context, the word color, which can also be a dye or pigmentation, is also related to the idea of an attribute or nature, so that we take our nature from Allah and are thereafter colored by our faith. This is one layer of interpretation. Other appearances of the word color in the Holy Quran refer to the diversity of creation, including the diversity of human peoples, yet none refer directly to the colors of Allah. The uniqueness of this verse suggests a deeper layer, and we can begin delving into it by connecting it to Adam, the one who was given the power to name Allah's creations, and the first human being to take his color from Allah. If you will allow me to begin with a definitional question, I will then ask, what is color? First, color is a perception. We see color when we perceive and interpret different wavelengths of visible light that are reflected or emitted. Colors are described by hue, saturation, and intensity. And we know that colors also trigger emotional and psychological responses that align with aesthetic principles. Color symbolism long preceded Isaac Newton's observations of the prism in 1666, and colors have denoted affiliations and attributes for centuries. From the colors of national flags to the colors employed to render meaningful representations of concepts and ideas, human beings have reacted to and have used colors to interpret and shape reality and phenomenal experience. Colors are also experienced in time. Wavelengths travel through space. Light takes a certain amount of time to traverse the distance between the sun and Earth, and our physical brains interpret the signals that resolve into what we perceive as color, all in time. Allah is beyond time and space, timeless and eternal. And from the moment of creation, time and light also blossomed into being. The colors of Allah are the colors of the universe, from the visible spectrum that humans can see to ultraviolet, infrared, and others that are invisible to our natural eyes. When the Quran asks, who is better than Allah at coloring? The obvious answer is implied, no one. But more significantly, the deeper implication is that all colors belong to Allah. In every sense of that word, every dye, every pigmentation, every skin color, and all the myriad forms that belong to the natural world as we see it. Just as we perceive colors differently, as one color may signify this or that for one person and something entirely disparate for another, so too do we apply our own interpretation to the diversity of the world, drawing boundaries and lines based on how certain wavelengths resonate with us. Yet, just as all colors exist in the purity of undifferentiated light, so too is Allah unity that prismatically resolves into differences that we should appreciate and honor. Of course, human beings perceive and experience the colors of the natural world in ways that create almost universal correlations. Red is the color of blood, green, the color of verdant life, black, the color of night, darkness, and death, white, the color of purity, not to be mistaken for or attributed to the variations in melanin that distinguish the tribes of humankind. That's another story. These universal significations also belong to Allah. And in this, there is yet another lesson to be learned. The primordial divisions of color that have inspired the world's spiritual practices, even unto the black, red, and white spirits that indigenous peoples have identified as orchestrating the delicate and complex symphony between life, death, and pain, also belong to Allah. In the Quran, it is written, "And whatsoever ye have been given is a comfort of the life of the world and an ornament thereof, and that which Allah hath is better and more lasting." When we match this verse to the other, the colors of Allah are indeed everlasting. For we must realize that God has the entire palette of creation to work with, colors even unimaginable to us. The colors that have been given to us are both comfort and ornament. And so many of us have foolishly endowed even these with divisive meaning, when we should acknowledge that comfort is to be found in creation. Truly, we have enough to contend with, as the Quran tells us, without compounding it by mistaking the colors we perceive for those that are better and more lasting. Inasmuch as all colors belong to Allah, they belong also to light and to love. It is a strange thing that we do, to subtract colors from their source and hold them aloft as standards. For even the darkest colors, even those that signify to our perception the things we fear and loathe, belong to a palette that stretches far beyond our understanding. This is a challenging lesson, for the colors of death and pain have always inspired fear and suffering in humankind, and we look upon them as apart from the light of Allah. Yet consider the depths of the ocean, where no light penetrates, or the thickness of jungle where decay and abundance dance in a cycle of give and take, or the abyss of space, where suns explode and black holes devour matter circumscribed by halos of light. Do not all these belong as well to Allah? Truly then Allah is the greatest coloring, at casting upon the facets of creation the many colors that propel human beings to find unity amidst diversity, and that render enjoyable and exhilarating the wonder and strangeness of existence and being. Color may appear still, and even the works of our painters and artists, though still, are perceived in time, in reflection. One of the first lessons we learn on this path is to behave with the awareness that the eyes of God are upon us always, and that every inhalation is a gift. It is, when one considers it, a strange thing to say that Allah has eyes, for God is beyond form. And whatsoever form we impart to the divine is an interpretation, even as the colors we see are just that. Yet in that remembrance, we are admonished to be mindful of the present moment, for every color is discerned in the moment, however we might recall it. Our recollections are composed of fragments that we remember perceiving, knowing as we do that so much goes unnoticed, unperceived, and is beyond our perceptual faculties entirely. What then do we see? In the Quran it is written, "And if thou speakest aloud, then lo, he knoweth the secret thought, and that which is yet more hidden." If what we see and observe is most evident, what then of what we do not perceive? What then of the colors we do not see? Shall we pride ourselves on the visible spectrum, or even on such colors and spectrums as our ingenious instruments can discern, when even these are but a fraction of what is known to the Creator? Allah sees us. The light of God is reflected from us, and the colors we take on are shaped by our actions, our thoughts, and the innermost contents of our hearts. We do not only perceive color, we emit light, and our colors are those we take upon ourselves. Our colors are the vestments we choose to wear, the pennants beneath which we gather, and we blend the colors of nature into configurations that reflect our creativity, our ingenuity, and our fallibility also. We strive to emit pure light, knowing that there is that within us, the eternal soul that shines forth through the prism of our minds. To be sure, we can choose the colors we favor, but if we take on the colors of Allah, we take on the purest, most saturated, and most intense unity of colors that sets an example for us, and a reminder that all colors, life and death, night and day, black, white, red, green, and all the spectrums entire, belong to Allah and are returned unto Allah when all things are reflected through the soul of the world. Let us then take on the colors of Allah. Let us take on the faith of our Creator. I consider myself a member of this community, and I hope that you will keep me in your prayers. Recently, I became aware that a personal tragedy is on the horizon, close at hand, and that someone dear to me has only so much time before Allah calls him to return. I wish we had more time. I resent circumstances that could have been different. I anticipate the absence and the sharp pain of enduring love. When I wrote this message for you, I was struck by a single thought that I have since borne in mind, that there is something beautiful in the return. Of course, I'm aware that to call death beautiful is contentious, and having witnessed the suddenness and horror of it, there is much in the color of death that is both grotesque and horrid, and the idea that we must endure is prominent in our faith. Yet in our endurance, we take on the colors of our suffering and are right to remember that all colors belong to Allah. And this is not something that we should resent, however challenging. It is something that should serve to remind us that, to the one that is beyond time, even the harshest mortal suffering is but the beat of a hummingbird's wing. Indeed, the time it takes for the human mind to perceive a single wavelength of color once reflected. Human life is precious, however cheaply it may often be treated by those who walk in ignorance. We have the ability to take on color, to work with the colors of nature and creation, and to observe how the many wavelengths of light that are reflected and emitted around us take shape within our singular and collective minds to render human experience through the prism of life. On this Adam Day, let us take a moment to reflect on the colors of Allah and exercise our choice and agency to appreciate how the purest of lights contains a multitude. I thank you again for giving me this opportunity to present my thoughts to you. Peace be upon you and upon those whom you love, and may Allah bless and protect you. May you walk in light and love, and even in darkness and sorrow, find your way near to the eternal. Thank you.